Hey there! Are you a crime scene investigator, law enforcement officer, or forensic scientist looking for a Facebook community that understands you? Check out Taction USA's forensic product groups. You'll find blogs, articles, information, and community. For those of us in the investigative field, there are not many lines of support out there, but Taction USA is a company that was founded by law enforcement for law enforcement. Subscribe today to get access to exclusive content. Just look for Taction USA in Facebook groups.
Welcome, one and all, back to a mini episode of Crossing the Tape. I am Brendan, and I'm joined with
Hillary.
And today we bring you the first in the next series of mini episodes. You've been waiting on the edge of your seat.
I'm sure.
Bated breath for the arrival of the Jack the Ripper series.
Yes.
And it is here. And so we begin. Please sign the crime scene log and learn you a bit about one of the most famous and mysterious cases in
ever.
World history.
Ever, I would say.
Yes.
So, as you mentioned, over the next few months, we'll go over each victim, and we'll dive a little bit deeper into Jack the Ripper, his victims, and actual evidence that may have helped solve the crimes. But at the time, of course, they couldn't.
Those techniques weren't available.
They weren't available, and I think at this point, some of it's too far gone.
Right. But
it's still interesting. And he does remain one of the most notorious unknown serial killers on the planet.
Yes.
Jack the Ripper was a serial killer in the late 1800s, and as we mentioned, his identity is not known. There are theories. There are several theories.
Yeah, plenty.
Plenty. I would say the most serious theory was H.H. Holmes, and who was another serial killer and con artist. However, it's never been able to be proven that he was Jack the Ripper. I think the biggest selling point for a while was that looking at timelines, when the killings in Whitechapel, England, where Jack the Ripper, all of his victims were, when they ceased, is when H.H. Holmes ended up in America, and then almost the same type of killings were happening. So I think that's where that theory comes from. However, it's never been really disproven or proven, as far as we know.
Just disputed.
Yes. So what makes Jack the Ripper so notorious? It was the name.
Wicked name.
It was the way he murdered his victims and the medical precision that he appeared to have. Mm-hmm. And all of this took place in Whitechapel, England. And Whitechapel, if you don't know, is not a very great place, especially back then. Mm-hmm. Not in the 1800s in particular. And it's appeared that Jack the Ripper also had a particular target when it came to his victims, because he was killing only prostitutes or women who maybe weren't necessarily prostitutes, but they were of ill repute. Mm-hmm. There were a few victims that it's not known that they were prostitutes, but they were headed that direction with their careers.
Street type folks.
But the medical knowledge made it appear that he might have been a doctor, and we'll get into more of the details of the cases later, but one of the very first victim was found near a hospital. So poses the question, was he a doctor or someone with medical knowledge? And we may never know who Jack the Ripper was, but each victim and each scene has some elements about it that are interesting. Mm-hmm. And now that criminology is much more advanced in the way we think and the way we investigate, along with evidentiary value of forensics, I've found it interesting, and I thought it would be a good podcast series.
Yes.
To dive into what could have been analyzed and could it have been solved?
If these things happen today.
Right.
We'd probably have the guy.
We'd probably know who Jack the Ripper was. But today is just the intro of the man, and really, I don't have much more than he was a serial killer in Whitechapel. He appeared to have medical knowledge. I don't want to get into too many details because that will spoil the other episodes.
Right.
And
normally when we discuss a serial killer, some sort of bad actor, we'll tell you about their childhood, and their upbringing, and their background, but we don't have any of that. We barely have guesses.
No, we don't have anything except how he killed and who he killed. And that gives us some insight that he didn't like prostitutes, or maybe he had issues with women. Mm-hmm. And he had serious medical knowledge.
Yeah, he was too skilled. I think some had theorized he might be a butcher. But that were like more surgical than simply he knows how to cut something. But like he knows exactly where and what tools and such.
Yeah, I think that butcher theory was disproven pretty quickly, but I had heard that too, that people thought maybe he was a butcher.
Unless he was just a really good butcher.
Well, in that area too is very, blue collar.
Yes.
So I think that was why that theory came from there, but his very first victim was found not very far from a hospital.
Right. And could have been the doctor got off work and decided he was going to try this thing he'd been thinking about.
Right.
And the rest of us just had to live with the nightmare.
Mm-hmm.
Or the rest of the people at the time.
Yeah.
We get to live with the curiosity around it. Because I don't think he's going to get anyone else at this point.
I don't think so.
I think we're safe now.
I really don't know, even with the evidence that has surfaced, I really don't know that it will ever be solved because there's nothing to tie it to.
Right. And every few years you see a headline that some new private agency or something has...
Yeah.
They have confirmed the identity, and you look at the article and it says, well, they're pretty confident, but they don't know for certain.
Right.
Well, then get out of here.
Yeah.
We can all guess.
Yeah.
It's interesting some of the theories that come up and the people they point to that, well, this is currently the most likely person, but...
There's never going to be a resolution.
Yeah, I don't see it becoming definitive at any point.
No, and some of the evidence, I don't want to spoil it too much, but one of the pieces of evidence was a handwritten note. Mm-hmm. Another one was a partial print. But what are those going to be compared to?
Right.
You have to be able to compare something in order to solve it.
Yes. Yeah, I doubt any other crimes this guy committed made it into CODIS.
No. Not in the 1800s.
No. So, even if that print that was found is currently preserved, it doesn't do anybody any good.
No. So.
Until we develop familial fingerprinting like familial DNA.
I don't know. I don't think that would work.
No, it wouldn't.
No.
Well, we'll tell you what does work. Us on the next episode.
Thank you for listening, and I'm sorry I don't have more details, but we don't know who he is.
Yeah.
This is the intro.
We're telling you everything we know.
Yeah, this is the introductory into our series.
Yes. And so the next mini episode we will hear about the first victim of Jack the Ripper. And the next couple main episodes are going to be particularly intriguing about a different serial killer who, unfortunately, he was kind of the total package.
Yes.
He checks every box.
He's
It's the poster boy for serial killer.
I can't even find the words.
He's got it out. You think,
I think many serial killers perhaps fashioned their fantasies after his crimes.
But that'll all come in the next month.
Yes.
As we're back on our regular schedule. So join us then and sign the crime scene log on your way out.
Thanks for listening.